Metaphysics+Entertainment Circle+Ancestors+Fortune Tellers+Group Pets. Bai Qingwei, an old ghost who had died for over 1,000 years, was forcibly dragged back by later generations. As soon as she returned, she realized that she had been deceived by future generations. The once huge Taoist temple now only has a small facade, and all the treasures she painstakingly dug up have become nothing, and she has even been kicked out of the ranks of the 100 clans. Not only that, she suddenly realized that she owed 9.99 million merits. Leakage of wealth is so heartbreaking. No matter how much money you make, clear it instantly. Bai Qingwei, who couldn't eat enough and couldn't wear warm clothes, planned to find someone to take care of himself and throw the Taoist temple over. But as she hugged the golden master's thigh, the Taoist temple became increasingly popular. Whether it's a plain-headed pawn, a political magnate, a domineering CEO, or a popular celebrity, they all lined up to hold on to Bai Qingwei and cry, "Big shot, save me." Even the wealthy father brought a pigeon egg to propose. Bai Qingwei, who has always loved treasures, looked at the shimmering pigeon eggs and took out the newly learned slogan with a serious expression. "The wise do not fall in love, build a beautiful flower country. I am someone who strives for science, men will only affect my speed of making money." Keywords of the novel. After leaving the circle, Old Ancestor became popular without a pop-up window due to his mystical learning. After leaving the circle, Old Ancestor became popular through his mystical learning. Download the complete text. After leaving the circle, Old Ancestor became popular through his mystical learning. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Return. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Return. Huagua, Shicheng, the heat is steaming. In the ancient Taoist temple, there is a hint of coldness. There stood a little girl in the courtyard, standing in the middle of a strange rune, with her at the center, crimson spreading everywhere. She lowered her head to look at her strange body, revealing half of her arms short sleeve and half of her legs shorts. A hint of confusion flashed across her pale face. She lowered her head again to look at the runes under her feet. Perhaps others didn't know, but she could tell at a glance that it was a sacrificial array. So, she really came back. Someone offered a sacrifice and called her back, an old ghost who had died for 1,000 years. Just as she was thinking, a sentence rang out in Bai Qingwei's mind. "I plead with my ancestors to once again promote the Qingfeng temple, not to let anyone look down on it, and to live a good life for me. Carry it forward. Live on." Bang bang bang. Bai Qingwei frowned as she thought back to her tearful words. At this moment, someone suddenly knocked on the door of the Taoist temple. "Sister Qingwei, are you inside?" A sweet voice sounded simultaneously. Qingwei. Surprisingly, it has the same name as her. Bai Qingwei raised her eyebrows lightly and walked over to open the ancient gate of the Taoist temple. There was also a little girl standing outside the door, 18 or 19, dressed very strangely. She was dressed in shorts, with slender arms and legs exposed, completely different from the attire of Bai Qingwei's era. Bai Qingwei couldn't help but look at her. "Sister Qingwei, I knew you were here. We're going to join the group for filming today. Hurry up and leave, it won't be too late." The little girl breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Bai Qingwei, and as she spoke, she was about to pull her wrist. Bai Qingwei instinctively avoided and asked lightly, "Who are you?" "Little girl." She looked at Bai Qingwei in shock and said with a dry smile, "Sister Qingwei, don't joke with me anymore. I'm your assistant, Xiao Tang. Although this drama is about you playing the role of a person who died unexpectedly after amnesia, it's not on the set yet, so there's no need to act." A hint of confusion flashed in Bai Qingwei's eyes. "The crew assistant. What is it?" Xiao Tang had a frightened expression on her face. Bai Qingwei's expression was too lifelike. She had never seen Bai Qingwei's acting skills so good before. Just like the truth, she was a bit hesitant and said, "Sister Qingwei, don't scare me anymore. Hurry up and join the cast. Bai Qingwei looked at Xiao Tang and realized that she had been recalled from the sacrifice and had been an old ghost underground for 1,000 years. She had no idea that the world had changed its sun and moon. Her original body was sacrificed and died, her soul was torn apart, and she had no memory of her original body. She only knew that she was originally the only descendant of Qingfeng Temple, but she didn't have much ability. In order to support the Taoist temple, she entered the entertainment industry with her beautiful appearance and wanted to make a lot of money. I don't know why, but shortly after entering the circle, I suddenly offered a sacrifice and attracted Bai Qingwei. What is the entertainment industry? Even Bai Qingwei doesn't know. Now it seems that this is a brand new era, completely different from the era she used to be in. She can only take one step at a time now. Bai Qingwei looked behind Xiao Tang and didn't speak. Xiao Tang saw that time was running out, so he grabbed Bai Qingwei's hand and walked out. Bai Qingwei remained motionless like a mountain and followed behind Xiao Tang, allowing him to take him to the paper bar shop diagonally across from him. Bai Qingwei only then noticed that there was a funeral street around Qingfeng Temple, and various traditional shops related to the funeral industry were all on this street. What Xiao Tang wants to take her to is the paper binding shop diagonally opposite. Is the crew mentioned by Xiao Tang in the Zitza store? Bai Qingwei silently observed everything. At the same time, the air inside the paper shop seems to be scorching. What's going on? What's the problem with the recording? Why does it always automatically roll up? The director, wearing a fisherman's hat, tugged at his short sleeves and furrowed his brows, almost trapping several flies. He stared impatiently at the repairman next to the video recorder. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Performance of Corpse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Performance of Corpse. The black short sleeves on the repairman's body were almost soaked in sweat. When he heard the director's words, he wiped the sweat off his face and said, "I don't know what's going on. It really can't be repaired. Maybe the machine is aging and not under control." The director's face turned black and he said, "So what do you say?" The repairman pondered for a moment and said, "Now we can only replace the machine." The director impatiently said, "Then quickly change it. Don't delay filming." The repairman reluctantly agreed and arranged for people to replace the machine. At this moment, Bai Qingwei followed Xiao Tang into the paper binding shop. Seeing various paper binding products placed on both sides of the paper binding shop, Bai Qing felt a slight sense of going home. However, there were also many strange and dark things placed next to them, and there were also some things on the ground that looked like small paths. Bai Qingwei frowned inexplicably. Xiao Tang pulled her and walked up to the director, apologizing, "Sorry, Director Hong, we're late." Upon hearing this, the director glanced at them and suppressed his anger, saying, "What's going on? I told you to start filming at 6 o'clock this morning, and what time is it? You're not big, but now you've learned how to play big names." Xiao Tang looked embarrassed and said, No, Director Hong. I'm really sorry, and we didn't mean to. I'm really sorry. I assure you, there won't be another time. Xiao Tang said, secretly pulling on Bai Qingwei's sleeve, hoping to make Bai Qingwei apologize to Director Hong. "Why are you pulling me?" Bai Qingwei said inexplicably. Xiao Tang. Director Hong choked when he saw Bai Qingwei's innocent expression on his face, but he was too lazy to argue with them. Forget it, he's just a small character. There happen to be some other issues today, so we won't be filming for now. You guys go change your clothes quickly. Thank you Director Hong, thank you Director Hong. Little Tang bowed repeatedly, thanking Bai Qingwei tirelessly. After finishing her words, she pulled Bai Qingwei and turned to the place where she changed clothes. As she walked, she murmured softly, "My sister, can we not be so straightforward? Although this time it's a small role for you to play in a few scenes, and you still have to play a corpse in today's scene, Director Hong is the head of the suspense. It's a good thing to be able to play his role, so please cooperate well, okay. Upon hearing Xiao Tang's words, Bai Qingwei's eyes twitched and he roughly understood what acting meant, just like a former actor who would perform on stage. But what's going on when she plays a corpse? She just came back from a ghost and is playing the role of a corpse again. Do corpses also need to be portrayed? Bai Qingwei felt a murmur in her heart, and in the afterglow, she caught a glimpse of a vague shadow next to the video recorder. What's wrong with you guys? Hurry up and change the machine. At this moment, Director Hong saw everyone's slow movements and began to scold again. Upon hearing this, Bai Qingwei turned to Director Hong and followed his gaze, only to see him staring at the machine that looked like a loudspeaker. There were a few people next to them, who shrank their necks, bent over and ran over, as if trying to take the machine away. The gray shadow next to him suddenly pulled down his face, looking unhappy. Director Hong, can you still shoot today? A middle-aged man walked over and couldn't help but ask, seeing the scene in chaos. Director Hong looked serious when he saw him and said, I'm sorry, Mr. Zhang. We don't know what's wrong with our machine and it's temporarily unusable. We need to replace it. We'll probably be able to continue filming this afternoon. Upon hearing this, Mr. Zhang frowned and said, Director Hong, as we said, we will only give you one morning. My store is still busy this afternoon. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Neuropathy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Neuropathy. Director Hong kindly discussed, Mr. Zhang, would you like to give us some more time? We can discuss the cost of using the venue and we can add a little more. This is not. Mr. Zhang frowned and before he could finish a sentence, a female voice suddenly interrupted him and interjected. It's no use adding money. If this matter can't be solved, you won't be able to shoot. Boss Zhang and Director Hong followed the sound and saw Bai Qingwei standing there. Director Hong immediately pulled down his face and said, What's wrong with you? Didn't you ask you to change your clothes? Why are you still talking nonsense here? Hurry up. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving Lao Jin face. Let's go now, let's go now. Xiao Tang was aroused and quickly pushed Bai Qingwei to leave. Bai Qingwei stood there motionless. Xiao Tang exerted all his strength to suckle, but couldn't push Bai Qingwei. Bai Qingwei looked at Director Hong and Boss Zhang with a faint expression. Your machine, is it called this? Your machine doesn't break naturally, it's a ghost next to it that broke it, so it's useless. If we don't solve her, it's the same as how many machines we replace. Ghost. Director Hong hesitated for a moment, as if hearing a big joke. I said, Bai Qingwei, are you confused about the script or haven't you woken up from your dreams? Although we are filming ghost movies, where did ghosts come from? Mr. Zhang also had a confused expression on his face. Upon hearing the words, Bai Qingwei looked at Mr. Zhang and raised her eyebrows. People in paper binding shops usually know some spiritual techniques, haven't you seen them? Boss Zhang was stunned and said, What? It seems that it's really a decline in the mysterious world now. Bai Qingwei murmured, having been a ghost for many years, she had also heard the little ghost below say that the world's mysteries are declining, and there are not many people who practice orthodoxy. Now, she finally understands. In the past, the paper binding shop was also considered an extraordinary person with some real skills. But now Mr. Zhang knows nothing. It seems that there are really not many orthodox cultivators left. What are you talking about, Shiwei? Mr. Zhang didn't hear Bai Qingwei's words clearly. Director Hong ran out of patience and angrily said, Boss Zhang, don't pay attention to her. She's just a lunatic. You don't need to shoot today, hurry up. As soon as Xiao Tang heard this, he wanted to plead for mercy. Bai Qingwei stopped her and said, Wait a moment. She looked at Mr. Zhang and asked, Do you have any talismans? Mr. Zhang instinctively shook his head and said, No, this is a paper binding shop. There's no such thing. Bai Qing furrowed her brow slightly and caught a glimpse of an incense burner in the nearby Buddhist niche. She walked over with a step. I don't know what else Bai Qingwei wants to do, but Director Hong impatiently said, what exactly do you want to do? Don't force me to give you face. Bai Qingwei turned a deaf ear and walked straight over. Hong Dao gritted his teeth in anger and wanted to ask the field staff to kick them out. Director Hong, don't worry, we can't shoot for the time being. Let's see what she wants to do, said Mr. Zhang, reaching out to stop him. Director Hong frowned tightly and was about to say something. Mr. Zhang added with a smile, no big deal, I will continue to give you the venue this afternoon. Director Hong choked and swallowed back the words that had reached his mouth. The repairman and maintenance personnel, upon seeing this scene, didn't know what to do for a moment and didn't move. Xiao Tang was so anxious that he was almost covered in sweat and looked over urgently. I saw Bai Qingwei walking to the Buddha niche and taking down the incense burner. Mr. Zhang looked at the little girl, who looked in her early 20s. At first glance, she was full of spiritual energy, which made her feel relaxed. Especially those eyes, at first glance, make people feel calm and cool, and the whole person calms down. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Fragrant Gray Sketches. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Fragrant Gray Sketches. Mr. Zhang is a person who runs a paper binding shop. There are not many people in this industry now, and those who still work in this industry have some old traditions. He believes that there are truly powerful ways, so he wants to see what kind of person Bai Qingwei is. Bai Qingwei took down the incense burner and placed it on the nearby counter table, pulling out a handful of incense ash from inside. Xiao Tang looked at Director Hong's expression and hurriedly took 2 steps forward, trying to stop Bai Qingwei. But as soon as she approached, she saw Bai Qingwei holding incense ash, as if drawing something on the table. That posture. Like a drawing symbol. Boss Zhang looked at Bai Qingwei's actions and immediately saw that she was drawing a talisman, but did she use a fragrant gray talisman? Boss Zhang frowned and tentatively moved forward, wanting to see what Bai Qingwei was actually doing. At this moment, Bai Qingwei stopped and said, all right. Boss Zhang was taken aback, is that all right? Before he could speak, Bai Qingwei turned around and looked at the crowd. Director Hong was about to ask what she was doing, but Bai Qingwei stared in the direction of the video recorder, raised his hand, and took a photo on the table. The incense ash on the table flew up in the shape of a spell. Immediately after, everyone saw a glimmer of gold shining in the incense ash. Before everyone could see clearly what it was, Xianhui seemed to have eyes and flew towards the side of the video recorder with a swoosh. The next second, a scream from a female voice suddenly rang out in the paper binding shop. Ah, me, my face, it's so hot, so hot. The sound, sizzling and cheering, was like an electric current flashing past, or like a cold wind blowing through the treetops in the middle of the night, emitting ghostly cries and wolf howls, making everyone's hearts tremble. Everyone instinctively looked over. There was a girl there who looked like she was in her 20s or 30s, with a disheveled hair and a birthday robe on her body. She hugged her head and pulled away the ashes from her head and face, constantly moaning in pain. Upon seeing this scene, Xiao Tang and everyone widened their eyes and exclaimed in surprise. Sleeping trough, when will there be someone here? Damn it! Are you, the people in your family, semi-transparent and gray? Mom, this is a ghost, isn't it? Paper binding shop, is there really a ghost? The crowd screamed incessantly, desperately retreating and hugging each other in groups. If it weren't for the shadow near the door, they would have been eager to run out for their lives. Director Hong looked at the figure, his face trembling fiercely. His whole mind was shattered, as if seeking help. He grabbed Mr. Zhang's arm and took a cold breath. What is this? Mr. Zhang was also greatly surprised in his heart. This paper binding shop has no ghosts. Who knows where this thing came from? Boss Zhang is actually a paper binding shop. With a bit of courage, he immediately realized and looked at Bai Qingwei, suppressing his fear. He asked, "Little girl, is this ghost?" Bai Qing looked at him with a slight coolness, "Otherwise." Boss Zhang took a deep breath. "Since she appears with you, there must be a reason." "You don't know her," Bai Qing said with a slightly unchanged expression. Mr. Zhang looked at the figure and vaguely felt familiar, but couldn't remember and couldn't help but shake his head. Bai Qingwei frowned almost imperceptibly, then looked at the female ghost with a slightly heavy gaze. "This female ghost is a bit strange. If a person dies normally and becomes a ghost after death, their spiritual appearance should be clean. But the female ghost was wrapped with a hint of black energy, proving that she died unjustly, but her evil energy was not fierce, which is very strange." Upon seeing this, Bai Qingwei spoke up and asked, "Hey, what is your surname and who is it? Where is your home and why is it here?" The female ghost held her head and heard Bai Qingwei's words. Her expression tightened as if afraid of being caught, and she turned around and ran out. Seeing her wanting to run out, Bai Qing swept away a few burnt incense sticks from the incense burner and threw them at the door with a loud splash. The female ghost stepped on it, as if it had hit a wall. With a loud bang, she bounced back and fell silently to the ground. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Idle and Bored. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Idle and bored. The female ghost suddenly hit the ground, and the incense ash on the ground shook along with it. Everyone's eyelids twitched fiercely. Xiao Tang's eyes were almost falling on her feet, and she looked at Bai Qingwei in shock. "I'll go. When did Qingwei become a true heavenly master so powerful?" Bai Qingwei seemed to have not seen anyone else, playing with a few fragrant trees in his hand. He walked over and looked at the grinning female ghost, coldly saying, "Although my cultivation is not good now, I still have more than enough to deal with you. If you don't want to disappear like this, just answer me." The female ghost twisted her facial features in pain, looking quite frightening. The big men around couldn't help but shrink back. The female ghost heard Bai Qingwei's words and looked at her, but as if she had seen a ghost, she quickly curled up into a ball, her face full of fear, wishing to shrink into a speck of dust and disappear in front of everyone. One person. So afraid of one person. Everyone feels that their values are about to be reshaped. Bai Qingwei saw the female ghost speak and furrowed her eyebrows slightly. The female ghost was aroused and hugged her head, shouting, I didn't harm anyone, I just wanted to wait for my husband to pick me up." Bai Qingwei raised her eyebrows slightly and said, "Husband?" The female ghost didn't know what was on her mind and choked up with grievances. My husband left me here alone. It's all fake that he promised to love me for a lifetime. Love for a lifetime. Husband." Bai Qing chewed on the words husband with a hint of darkness, which should mean something similar to husband. Bai Qingwei smoothed out the female ghost's words and asked, "What's your name? What's your husband's name?" The female ghost cried and said, "My name is Xiesini. My husband's name is Wang Feng." Wang Feng. Mr. Zhang was taken aback when he heard the name and stared at the female ghost, his pupils dilated. "I remember. Yesterday, your husband bought a lot of paper-tied houses, cars, and boys and girls from my store, right?" The female ghost choked up and nodded. Bai Qingwei looked at Boss Zhang and said, "Do you know her?" "So you just said you don't know her?" Mr. Zhang choked for a moment and quickly explained, "It's not like that. I really don't know her, but yesterday a man named Wang Feng came to me and bought a lot of paper products. He said he had prepared them for his wife and had to load 2 cars before taking them away." Bai Qingwei said, "What? Everyone? Bai Qing was slightly confused. What is the current world, and because of this reason, he is unwilling to reincarnate and leave. And Bai Qingwei scrutinized the appearance of the female ghost. After death, a person becomes a ghost, which can also be called a spiritual body. Spiritual bodies generally have white, gold, black, or red qi. This kind of qi is not physical, but it can be made some simple judgments based on its different colors. For those who die normally, their qi is white. If they are a great virtuous person with many merits, their qi is golden. If one dies horizontally or wrongly, it is red or black. The female ghost in front of her had a black resentment on her body, and judging from her age, it didn't seem like a normal death or a celestial accident. It should be a futile death. But she said that the reason she didn't want to leave was because of the paper tie. Bai Qing frowned slightly, feeling a bit puzzled. The female ghost heard this and said directly, "When my husband and I went to the beach to play, we accidentally drowned and died." Seeing her straightforward answer, Bai Qingwei was even more skeptical. If it was an accident from heaven, not human-made, the anger on the female ghost should not be like this. But seeing the appearance of the female ghost, I shouldn't be able to ask what's going on. "Well, your death has nothing to do with us. Why are you working on our machines?" Director Hong suppressed his fear and couldn't help but ask. The female ghost shrunk her neck and whispered, "I'm just bored and playful." Director Hong. Repairer. Thank you. No wonder their machines can't be repaired, it's her fault for the relationship. Director Hong looked at the female ghost, his mouth twitched, and he heard the sound of slapping her face in the air. When he heard Bai Qingwei's words, he thought he was going crazy, but he didn't expect. Now he's going crazy. Little Tang didn't expect that everything Bai Qingwei said was actually true. This is a small matter, it's not a big deal. After finishing speaking, Bai Qingwei looked at Mr. Zhang and said, "You find her husband, let him take her away." End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Speech. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Speech. Mr. Zhang hesitated for a moment and said, I need to look for the order information. What is the order? Bai Qingwei was puzzled, but didn't ask much, so she pretended to understand and nodded, "That's good." That. At this moment, Director Hong weakly raised his hand. Bai Qingwei looked over. Hong Dao coughed awkwardly and said, "Sorry, Qingwei, do you have any way to get rid of her first?" Bai Qing raised her eyebrows slightly. Director Hong added, She's here, and we can't shoot either, you're right." He chuckled dryly. Bai Qingwei let out a sigh and nodded in understanding. "That's right. People and ghosts have different paths. It's not good to keep so many of them with a ghost all the time." Bai Qingwei scanned the surroundings and walked to the front of the shelf, taking down a piece of paper from above. Everyone saw her holding the paper, tearing it apart and folding it a few more times. In no time, a mini version of the small lantern was produced. Doubts appeared in everyone's eyes. Bai Qingwei held the lantern and looked left and right again, unsure of what she was looking for. After a while, she raised her right index finger, sighed, and then bit it open in one bite. Everyone. Is it so easy to bite your fingers when lying down? White Qing's fingertips emitted blood, and she drew something on the palm-sized lantern with the blood from her fingertips. Then, she wiped the blood off her fingertips with her torn fingers, picked up incense ash and incense wood, and began to play with them. As she murmured, Mr. Zhang curiously asked, "Little girl, what are you doing?" "Taking qi to form sha." Bai Qingwei replied with 4 words. The key step to achieving talismanship is to extract qi and form sha. Copper coins and cinnabar should be used. But currently she doesn't have these things, she can only use her own blood and add incense ash. After finishing it, Bai Qing lightly tapped the lantern with his fingertips. The next second, everyone saw the red strokes above, flashing with a golden light. But it flashed by. Everyone suspected that their eyes were blurred. But for some reason, as they looked at the lantern, everyone felt as if it had come to life. Bai Qingwei picked up the lantern and looked at Xiesini, his fingertips pointing slightly. Before everyone could react, they saw Xiesini disappear into the lantern like a TV special effect. Everyone couldn't help but close their eyes, then open them again and see that the female ghost was really gone. They all had some doubts, whether they were dreaming just now. Someone even secretly pinched their arm, causing a huge pain. The pain made them understand that everything was actually true. She left like this? Director Hong asked in a daze. Bai Qingwei held a small lantern and said, "Isn't this considered leaving?" Director Hong swallowed his saliva and breathed a sigh of relief. "Let's calculate, as long as we leave, it won't affect our shooting." As he spoke, his face was filled with laughter. "Well, Qingwei, so you're the Heavenly Master. Why didn't you mention it earlier? In our drama, there happens to be a Heavenly Master character, and we haven't found a suitable candidate yet. I think you're quite suitable. Otherwise, you could come." "Don't do it. Director Hong hasn't finished speaking yet." "I don't know how to film," Bai Qingwei interrupted him coldly. Upon hearing Director Hong's words, Xiao Tang regained his composure and was overjoyed, almost thanking him. Upon hearing Bai Qingwei's words, he felt as if he had been splashed with a basin of cold water. She quickly walked up to Bai Qingwei, pulled her sleeve, and smiled respectfully at Director Hong, saying, "That, Director Hong, Sister Qingwei, she was joking." This. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Brokers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Brokers. "I'm not joking," Bai Qingwei interrupted Xiao Tang with a resolute tone and a look that didn't seem like he was joking. She really doesn't know how to act, and her original body died as a sacrifice. She needs to fulfill her original body's requirements in order to continue living in her current form. Otherwise, I will have to die again and my soul will be shattered. That is to say, she has to go and promote the Qing Feng view again, and seek revenge for her original identity. How could she have time to do any filming here? Bai Qing frowned slightly, looked at Director Hong, and said straightforwardly, "I don't know how to film, nor do I plan to film. You can change people. I will help you catch ghosts and let you resume filming. It shouldn't be difficult to change me from filming, right?" Director Hong was stunned and somewhat puzzled. When she first appeared in this drama, it was Bai Qingwei and her agent Jean Guo who begged for mercy before coming in. Why did she suddenly refuse to film? Before Director Hong could figure it out, Bai Qingwei looked at Boss Zhang next to him and said, "Could you please bring Wang Feng to Qing Feng Temple to pick up his wife?" After finishing speaking, Bai Qingwei turned around and left, as if just informing Director Hong. Xiao Tang was dumbfounded. "No, Sister Qingwei, what's the situation?" Xiao Tang quickly bowed to Director Hong and chased after him, trying to catch up with Bai Qingwei. Bai Qingwei's footsteps seemed slow, but the corner of her clothes quickly brushed past the entrance of the paper binding store. Bai Qingwei had just come out with a lantern and was about to return to Qing Feng Temple when suddenly a huge tin box with 4 wheels stopped beside him. Before Bai Qingwei could understand, a person came down from inside. "It's a man." Upon seeing Bai Qingwei, the man frowned and said, "Bai Qingwei, why are you here? Shouldn't you be filming at this moment?" Bai Qingwei looked at him with an uncomfortable feeling in her heart, and some fragmented fragments flashed through her mind. Before she could speak, Xiao Tang's voice came from behind. "Brother Jean, why are you here?" Xiao Tang quickly walked over and saw the man, quickly clamping his shoulders and looking nervous. "Brother Jean." Bai Qingwei remembered that Director Hong had said that her agent was Brother Jean. "Agent, I don't know what it is." But she knew that the man in front of her was not a good thing. Just now, she remembered some scattered scenes and finally understood why, as the only descendant of Qing Feng Temple, she sacrificed and summoned back a 1,000-year-old ghost. The original Bai Qingwei, who was alone supporting the Qing Feng Temple that couldn't make ends meet, couldn't support it at all because she was beautiful. Jean Gu discovered her, and in order to earn money to support the Taoist temple, she entered the entertainment industry. However, the golden brother in front of her asked her to accompany an old man. The original Bai Qingwei disagreed and fled desperately. In a state of collapse, he climbed out of the forbidden formation and offered sacrifices to invite his ancestors to return. "What are you doing looking at me like this?" Jean frowned in disgust when he saw Bai Qingwei just looking at him without speaking. He ignored Xiao Tang and scolded Bai Qingwei, "Are you sick? I finally invited Yang Da's producer over yesterday, but what did you do? Do you still want to get angry or make money?" Upon hearing these words, Xiao Tang was taken aback and looked at Bai Qingwei in astonishment. What Jin Ji's words mean is well understood by Xiao Tang, who is also in the entertainment industry. She seemed to suddenly understand the reason why Sister Qingwei was unwilling to continue filming. Bai Qing looked coldly at Jean Gu and said, "I won't accompany that old man, nor will I continue filming." Upon hearing these words, Brother Jean laughed angrily and said, "Bai Qingwei, what do you mean? Are you playing with me here? You have no background in this industry, and if you want to become popular, you need to use some special means. Am I not doing it for your own good? What kind of chaste and strong woman demeanor are you putting on with me now? Don't forget, if you sign a contract with me, you have to listen to me. What's going on now? Are you trying to terminate my contract?" End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Termination of Contract. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Termination of Contract. Termination of contract. What is this? Bai Qingwei didn't quite understand, but based on Jin Ji's words and understanding before and after, it seems that she has some leverage in Jin Ji's hands. But no handle is important. Bai Qingwei nodded firmly and said, terminate the contract." Jean Gu looked at her for real and pulled his face down. "Bai Qingwei, don't go crazy here. It's stated in your contract with me that you need to give me 5 million to terminate the contract. Are you sure you want to terminate the contract with me now? Can you afford to pay 5 million? 5 million. Bai Qingwei couldn't help but be taken aback. Although she doesn't know the current prices, 5 million was a huge sum 1,000 years ago. Although it wasn't much to her back then. But nowadays, even having a full meal is difficult for Bai Qingwei, otherwise he wouldn't have had to enter the entertainment industry to earn money and support the Taoist temple. What are these things? Xiao Tang's heart sank suddenly, and his forehead twitched. 5 million, is this a dominant contract? Xiao Tang looked at Bai Qingwei with some concern. Why, you're scared? Seeing Bai Qingwei remain silent, Brother Jean naturally thought she was scared and snorted coldly, "If you're sensible, apologize to me and let me accompany Yang Da's producer for a few days. I'll forgive you and not ask for your breach of contract fee." Bai Qingwei regained consciousness and frowned in disgust. "I want to terminate the contract." Jin Ji's face turned black and he said, "Bai Qingwei, you have planned to terminate the contract and compensate me 5 million yuan. I won't compensate you." Bai Qing looked into his eyes with a calm expression. "Not only will I not compensate you, but you also need to voluntarily terminate the contract with me." Jean Gu laughed angrily and said, "Bai Qingwei, in broad daylight, why are you going crazy and asking me to voluntarily terminate your contract? Don't even dream about it. Yin Tang in his cheekbones show a black aura, his nose is withered and black, and he will die today." Bai Qing looked at Jin Ji's facial features with a straight eye. His eyes are red and evil, and his aura is like a knife cutting. He will die horizontally without a whole body. If he doesn't want to die, he should pay attention to his mouth today, not argue with others, and not go in and out alone at night. Jean Gu was stunned for a second before chuckling coldly. "Why, living in the Taoist temple, do you think you are a true heavenly master? Or do you think that if you curse me a few times, I will be afraid of you?" Upon hearing this, Xiao Tang stared blankly at Bai Qingwei, as if lost in thought. Bai Qingwei didn't see Jin Ji's mockery and said in a low voice, "This is just relief. You are too lifeless. If you don't want to die, come to me tomorrow with the terminated contract." After finishing speaking, Bai Qingwei jumped over brother Jin and left. Jin Ji's face was gloomy. "Bai Qingwei, are you really looking for death? Do you think you can offend me?" Bai Qingwei turned a deaf ear and walked away. Brother Jin was so angry that he wanted to rush forward. Xiao Tang quickly stopped him and said, "Well, brother Jin. Sister Qingwei, it may be a true heavenly master. You should be careful." Brother Jin's eyes widened and he became furious. "Are you cursing me here too?" Xiao Tang shrunk his neck and didn't dare to say anything more. He only said, I'll go persuade Sister Qingwei." After finishing speaking, she clamped her tail and chased after her. Jin Gu kicked the roadside block next to him in anger and walked into the paper binding shop with a black face. If you want to fight him, then he must have a clear understanding of what it means to be unable to twist your thighs with your arms. Bai Qingwei didn't pay any attention to what Jin Gu thought and went straight back to Qingfeng Temple. When Xiao Tang caught up, she had already entered the Taoist temple. "Qingwei, wait for me." Xiao Tang ran up in one breath, panting heavily, almost unable to catch a breath. Bai Qingwei looked at her puzzled and said, "What are you doing with me?" End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Parents' Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Parents' Palace. Xiao Tang propped his hands on his knees, bent over to catch his breath, and awkwardly said, I just wanted to ask, Miss Qingwei, do you really want to step back from the circle?" Bai Qingwei nodded without hesitation, She has a lot of things to do and doesn't have time to think about anything else. Upon hearing this, Xiao Tang frowned and said, "But, Sister Qingwei, you have finally gained some popularity. It's too bad to quit the circle at this time. And didn't you say before that you wanted to earn money to support the Taoist temple? What will you do after leaving the circle?" Seeing her worried expression and really considering herself, Bai Qing's expression softened a bit and said, "I have my plans. I will promote the Qingfeng concept again and have a way to make money." Upon hearing this, Xiao Tang eagerly asked, "So, Qingwei, what should I do? I am your assistant. If you want to leave the circle, will I also have no job?" Bai Qing frowned slightly and said, "I won't act anymore. It seems like I don't really need an assistant." Xia Tangdan had a bitter face and teary eyes. Bai Qing saw the situation and looked at Xiao Tang's face, then said, "You should go home early today and consider other matters later." Xiao Tang was stunned again. What does it mean?" Seeing her puzzled, Bai Qingwei reminded her, in terms of facial features, there are parents' palaces on both sides of the forehead and eyebrows, also known as sun and moon corners. The left side is the yang corner, and the right side is the yin corner. Your yang corner is incomplete, and your father passed away early. The yin corner has recently become dim, with a sudden increase in horizontal stripes and a black aura, indicating that your mother has been in poor health recently and is showing signs of death. If you go back early, perhaps you will still be saved. Xiao Tang. What kind of thing? She suspected that she was a bit deaf and didn't hear clearly. Xiao Tang said with a smile on his face, "Qingwei, what do you mean by that?" Bai Qing furrowed her eyebrows with a hint of suspicion. Is it difficult for her to understand what she said? People nowadays can't even understand these words. Bai Qingwei, seeing that Xiao Tang genuinely cared for her, patiently said, "Is your mother sick?" Xiao Tang. Are you sure you're not cursing? Xiao Tang answered inexplicably, "Yes, it's a bit. As we get older, we always have some cardiovascular and cerebrovascular problems." Upon hearing the words, Bai Qingwei said in a faint voice, "That's it. You can go back and take a look. If you go back in time, there will still be time. If you drag on for a long time, it will be a lack of skill. Xiao Tang doesn't quite believe this. It's been so many years now, no one believes in this anymore. Just she suddenly remembered that Bai Qingwei had just caught a ghost in the paper binding shop. Ghosts have appeared, what else cannot appear? Besides, Bai Qingwei can even catch ghosts, and other matters are probably not a problem. Bai Qingwei is also a descendant of the Taoist temple. Is it true that he knows some strange and mysterious techniques? Little Tang who looked up suspiciously and looked around the wind view. Go back early. Seeing Xiao Tang's movements, Bai Qingwei didn't say much. Finally, with a warning, he turned around and walked towards the Taoist temple. The Xianmen lineage, seeking good fortune and avoiding misfortune, regards catching ghosts and subduing demons as their own responsibility, but the heavenly way cannot be violated. They cannot interfere too much in certain matters, and can only provide reminders to the end. Whether one can change their life or not depends on the people themselves. Xiao Tang looked at Bai Qingwei's back and felt as if she was really different from before. Mom! Shouldn't something really happen, right? Upon hearing this, Xiao Tongxi let out a thump in his heart, his face slightly turning pale. He turned around and ran towards the main road. Not afraid of 10,000, just afraid of the unexpected. What if Qingwei gets it right? Xiao Tang dare not gamble on this one in case. On the other hand, just as Bai Qingwei was returning to the Taoist temple, Jin Gu entered the paper binding shop. In the crowd, when he found Director Hong, Brother Jin squeezed out a smile and changed his fierce demeanor. He walked over with a smiling face. Director Hong. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Persuades you to believe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 persuades you to believe. Hong Daojing was directing the crew to resume filming when he heard someone calling him out and turned his head. Seeing that it was Brother Jin, Director Hong's expression changed. He has always been tough and indifferent, and he always seems indifferent to actors and agents. At this moment, seeing Brother Jin, Director Hong asked politely, "Why are you here now?" "It's about Bai Qingwei's business. I happen to have something to tell you. I came here just for that dead girl." Jin Gu couldn't help but get angry when he heard Bai Qingwei's name. Bai Qingwei is not obedient at all and doesn't cooperate with work. I just met her at the door and scolded her a few times. She even told me that she wants to leave the circle. This is just a foolish young man. He signed a contract with me and wants to leave the circle casually. Can she afford the penalty for breach of contract? Director Hong was taken aback by the words and said, "She wants to leave the circle. Are you really playing?" Jin Gu snorted coldly and said, "Isn't that right? What else are you saying? She's just daydreaming about me paying her a penalty for breach of contract." Hong Dao exclaimed in a daze, "Did she really want to leave the circle? I thought she was joking around. I was just about to tell you that she has real skills and is suitable for playing the role of the Heavenly Master in our drama. I didn't expect she really wants to leave the circle." Jin Gu was a bit surprised. What skills does she have? She's just a newcomer and doesn't know anything. Moreover, she's still full of feudal superstitions. Just now, when she saw me, she said to me, "I'm going to have a bloody disaster. I've learned all the martial arts tricks in TV dramas." I don't know if she's acting crazy, but she actually takes this seriously. Wait a minute. Upon hearing this, Director Hong quickly stopped him and asked, "Jin Dahong, what did you say just now?" Brother Jin looked at him in confusion, not knowing what he was referring to. Upon seeing this, Director Hong reminded him, "Did you just say that Bai Qingwei told you that you would have a disaster of blood and light?" It seems like that's not what he said. Jin Gu instinctively recalled what Bai Qingwei had just said. What she said. My eyes turned red, my chi was like a knife cutting, and there was no complete body. It seems like this. Upon hearing this, Director Hong's face trembled. Seeing his face full of fear, Brother Jin's eyelids twitched and he said, "No, Director Hong, what's wrong with your reaction? Is it difficult? Do you think what Bai Qingwei said is true? Hong Dao regained his senses and looked at Jin Gu with a look of fear in his eyes. He swallowed his saliva slightly and said, Xiao Jin, I advise you, it's better to listen to her words. Jin couldn't understand and said, Director Hong, did you make a mistake? He felt very amused, she's just angry and talking nonsense. This is just a lie. How could you take it seriously? Director Hong looked hesitant and said, I think so, Xiao Jin, don't think so. There's a saying that goes well. If you're not afraid of 10,000, then you're afraid of the unexpected. This matter. I'm afraid it's not that simple. She may not be deceiving you. Jin Gu became increasingly confused as he listened. Although most people in the circle believe in ghosts and gods, Director Hong has always been bold and never afraid of these things. Even if he shoots suspense all year round, he is not very interested in these things. It was once said that people who believe in ghosts and gods cannot capture suspense well because they are scared before they have finished capturing supernatural suspense. How could this person believe it again? Jin Ji's eyes showed a hint of confusion. Director Hong, why do you keep saying that? Director Hong glanced around and saw that everyone else was busy and nobody was paying attention to them. He approached Brother Jin a bit and whispered, let me tell you, that Bai Qingwei really has some connections. He's not a scammer. We just encountered a ghost here. End of this chapter.